more units the Legends community was wrong about. This is a part 2 of a previous video, so if there's any units in this video that you think that should have been in this video, they might be in the previous part, or if you've watched both parts and there's a unit that I've missed out, definitely be sure to comment the unit down below, as I'll very likely make a part 3 of this series, which will most likely be the final part. You guys very much enjoyed the previous part and I saw the comments, so I made sure to bring out this second part here. But before we get into this video, I also want to let you guys know that I'm very much enjoying making this type of content. I appreciate all the support that you guys show on the channel, all the comments that you guys leave. It genuinely means the world to me, and you won't have to worry, there's a lot more coming. Let's get into this video. The first unit we're going to be talking about is Ultra Instinct Goku, the first Ultra Instinct unit in Dragon Ball Legends, the purple unit. On his release, people were mind blown at this mechanic of being able to dodge strikes and blasts while just standing still. The implementation of a gauge was something we've never seen before, and when this guy came with it, it was completely unreal for every single person playing Dragon Ball Legends at that time. Nowadays, we're kind of used to it. It doesn't change the fact that it's really cool, but it's not as surprising when an Ultra Instinct unit has the Ultra Instinct gauge. So that obviously made him insane. But what people didn't see is that his kit is very frail. And what I mean by that is his defenses suck. And this was on release. His defenses suck now, but he's gone through a Zenkai and a Plat. But on release, this guy was getting one-shotted by 1% Champa. You guys haven't seen Champa in years. You might not even think there's a Champa in Dragon Ball Legends, but Champa with his blue card, who released at the same time, pretty much destroyed him. And I do understand that it's a yellow versus a purple. Type advantage was much bigger back then, but what ended up happening is a bit of time passed, and unless you wanted to play the high skill ceiling game, Ultra Instinct Goku just wasn't gonna hold out for you. In that same year, we had Gogeta Blue, who's another yellow, who basically shuts down Ultra Instinct Goku. And you can imagine how that went, because that Gogeta is quite insane. It's not that Ultra Instinct Goku was bad offensively, but defensively he was a huge liability, and we've seen that with all the Ultra Instinct units in the game. They're very frail, poor defenses of getting this Ultra Instinct gauge that allows you to dodge almost everything. They're only getting better and better, but this one being the first rendition, once people realized that, a lot of people started putting him down. Let me also point out that back then there was no featured boost, no ultras to save the day, so the skill ceiling to succeed with Ultra Instinct Goku was a lot higher, which is why a lot of people stopped using him. But he's for sure one of the most fun units that have ever released in Dragon Ball Legends. But I would just attach that to the fact that the Ultra Instinct mechanic is what it is. So this is not to say he's really bad, but people praised him as an amazing unit where he had very clear weaknesses that could easily be overcome, and in a very short amount of time, in a sense, people switched up on him. But for that first week seeing this new mechanic, people thought it was the most unfathomable thing, and it was definitely the hype factor carrying him more than anything else. This is a unit you probably didn't expect to see in this video at all, but MVP 17, the leader of Universe Rep, the winner of the Tournament of Power, I'm sure all of you guys know this unit here, his utility is insane, even receiving a platinum equipment recently. But on his release, people thought he was genuinely bad, and that's because he's one of the first units of his kind. He's the type of unit that doesn't rely on damage or doesn't rely on being the offensive beast that a lot of characters are. A lot of players are damage first in terms of how they look at units, and up until this point, it was either you were just defensively great with no offenses, or you was offensively great with less defenses. But MVP 17 was a balance of everything, and because of that, he wasn't there to carry his team, at least not at the front of the lines, but more so as the core, the glue, and everything like that. I will also say the biggest driving factor for why he was underrated isn't because of his kit. It was mainly because of the reveal. For some reason, people weren't hype about MVP 17, but I'll also add to the fact that his reveal was not great. They dropped his reveal on Twitter and that was about it. I think there was a YouTube video link as well, but no reveals and stuff for the first Legends Limited of the year that he released, 2023. So naturally, people felt like he was lackluster just because of that, and we'd never had that before. So it was quite an upset for a unit of his caliber. Let's also point out that he was representing the newest tag in the game, Universe Rep. This tag had literally nothing on it. And when I say nothing on it, nothing new. At that start of the year, we got ultra hits after MVP 17, maybe before, sure, someone correct me on that, but they were the first two releases of that year, and just them two alone wasn't enough to carry the team. I would say it was until the anniversary where we really saw that MVP 17's value was out of this world. It's not that people didn't respect him before that, but the way he was shining in the anniversary was unreal, and you guys know what he does. The double vanish thing is really nice, protecting your team from nullification of endurance, giving his allies extra rising rush damage, and just being an amazing support unit in general. He does a lot, but he's not one of those units you'd immediately look at and think this guy owns the whole game, but behind the scenes he was genuinely the biggest threat. I also want to point out that I was not one of those that were hyped for MVP 17, but I wouldn't say I underrated him. I just really felt he would have returned in the anniversary, so I didn't summon for him. I don't really regret it because my Go Ultra Vegito Blue dropped that year, but damn, MVP 17 was him. And also for the record, he did return at the anniversary, right before at least, but they put him on his own banner, which made it not worth it to summon. Some things are just unforeseeable, I guess, but his value was definitely undisputed, especially in comparison to how people viewed him on his release. We've got Goku and Bardock, Bardock and Goku. I want to say the first Game Originals unit, but that would be wrong. But what I will say is they are the first premium Game Originals unit. This unit here covers two elements, green and blue, and they came with the new mechanic, Indestructible. The first time we've ever seen this mechanic. It stops you from being defeated, but it's not like Revival where the combo gets stopped. The enemy can continue the combo, and until that combo stops, the health bar will have a frozen state where you can't break through to defeat that unit until that combo is dropped, which was very, very powerful. But there's a lot of factors surrounding why people felt like Goku and Bardock weren't great. They dropped in the 2023 festival, and they were a Part 2 unit on their own banner. So right before them, there was Beast Gohan and Evil Ken, two insanely powerful units. Universe Rep was doing numbers that year, and Beast Gohan, well, he's Beast Gohan. So there was a lot of weight already in the festival, and that meant that a lot of people didn't have Chrono Crystals. But then the Goku and Bardock banner came out, and that banner sucks. The format is horrendous, and it's probably one of the reasons why they haven't made another premium Game Originals unit. Long story short, it wasn't worth summoning on the banner because the format sucked, and we had an Ultra coming out right after that who we know was Ultra UI, but obviously at the time we didn't. A lot of people got shafted. Fortunately for me, I got lucky, but this unit on release, for some reason, everybody perceived them as being unable to be useful on the battlefield. There was also a technique that came out where if you drop combo with Beast Gohan while you pop their Indestructible, you're able to remove their vanish and hit a blue card, and you can guaranteed kill them because Beast Gohan, when he removes your vanish, it gives him an opportunity to stop the Indestructible from appearing on the health bar, or he can hit a blue card because you won't have a vanish. The best you can do is probably switch out, but he's still going to be able to do insane damage, and Beast Gohan in his prime is one-shotting a lot of people, if not everybody. But the reason why people are wrong about this unit is simply because they weren't using them correctly. People saw Bardock and Goku because they had that defensive layer. The majority of the player base ran them offensively, but that isn't the best way to work with them. Especially with the release of Ultra UI later, people running game where you'd build them defensively and prioritize their Indestructible where nothing can break through them because of that Indestructible. So rising rushes were less valuable. Blue cards didn't do as much damage. Them being blue against Beast Gohan, that's a big help as well. Green was also just very valuable in that festival. Weren't many purples around to stop them. And also generally people's playstyle started to change. They have an explosive green, so building them defensively and playing more passive in a way that you can counter attack people, so you'd vanish and hit an explosive green, gives you free combo starters, and you also have that protection for your team. Their value completely shot up after that, especially in Part 3 where you have this now defensive unit with Indestructible, and you have Ultra UI who can also dodge attacks and snipe people easily. Free combo starters. That combination of units was unreal. But what I will say about this unit is it was more so the release of Ultra UI that boosted their value for the Sun family team more than people actually seeing them as horrible. But for that first week or two, if you was there, the majority of the player base was very, very open about how bad this unit was. But again, I think that's also a factor for how bad the banner was. There's no way I was gonna drop this video without mentioning my GOAT Ultra Vegito Blue. Now this has nothing to do with his release, but more so the longevity that he put out in Dragon Ball Legends. He released in the 5th anniversary as the Ultra, so he released in Part 3 of that celebration, one of the better reveals we've had in all of Dragon Ball Legends history. But that's just addressing his release quickly. This is not about that. We know that Ultra Vegito Blue went through a series of units trying to counter him, and the biggest one being Ultra Super Janemba. What I'm not trying to say is that Ultra Vegito Blue is better than XYZ units, but what I will say is that longevity will answer a lot of your questions about how good a unit was, especially in a period of time where people like to downplay units. If they survive a longer period of time, it it would be questioned as to why people presumed they were bad. Now, there's not much I have to say about this, but how do you dispute Ultra Vegito Blue being a top 6 unit being used in Battle Rank 70 a whole year later? In the 6th anniversary, during the release of Fusing Super Vegito and Fusing Gogeta Blue, he was the 6th most used unit in ranked PvP by Battle Rank 70 players and above. Not the guys that are below. These are the top rankers deeming him as valuable a whole year later. I'm not even going to say anything objective, but it's very obvious that the community was wrong about this guy, and Vegito Blue lived far beyond his intention, beating his counters, outliving them, and showing that he is one of the most worthy units in this game with very minimal effort. Top 6. You really need to think about that. 6? Top 6 in 2024, a whole year later. How? Janemba, how did you let that slide? How? We've got Omega Shenron here. Not gonna talk long on him, but he deserves all the props in the world. One of the strongest units, especially for the time of his release. This guy dropped right after Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta in the 6th anniversary. One of the most destructive units ever. He releases after that. That is crazy, especially while being color counted. Purple beating that green made it so that this unit here should have been crushed. Everybody saw Omega Shenron and was like, yep, it's over for him. But that was far from the truth. Two things were saving Omega Shenron's skin big time. The first thing is that he has indestructible. So even if Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta does insane damage, well, you gotta do that at least twice, because that ultimate is not gonna get all the way through. He's gonna freeze his health bar with the indestructible, and then you're gonna have to do it again, and he can probably switch out. The second factor, which is a very big factor, even though it's not even huge on its own, is that he gets type neutral every single time defensively, but for the first 3 times I believe he also has it offensively. So he's not a bum on the offensive end, but he's going to survive on the defensive end, which made it so that he basically wasn't a green unit. He's practically colorless. Unless you're blue, he's coming after you, boy. But I will also add to his case, all the glory cannot go to him. He had the pleasure of releasing with Rage Shenron, which really helps his case in how he was able to survive. Rage Shenron being the paralyzed type and also being able to tank a lot really helped Omega Shenron on a team of regeneration with all of the factors that were around it, such as Evil Majin Buu and Kid Buu Zenkai. But being a green unit after dropping G4 is actually insane. Knowing that if you didn't have G4, you basically couldn't play the game. Crazy work from the devs, where they designed him so well he was able to survive. This is the last unit for this video, and we've got Triku. Now, my impression of this unit, and always has been, is that he's a bum. I don't like this unit. Not because he's bad, but he only has one job. The Dragon Ball Legends developers gave him a 20-day contract, maybe a bit more than that. He maybe had 2 months, and they said, hey man, we're gonna put you into the game, and as long as you can counter Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, you're good. Beyond that, he's a bum. After G4 got countered out the meta, Triku almost became a ghost. Nobody was using him after that. But the reason I want to say we were wrong about him is because his value in the game was very, very high. He released as part of the Sagas from the Movies campaign, and honestly, during his initial release, everybody thought he was horrendous, and that's simply because he can't do it on his own. But his pure objective is to counter the 6th anniversary Ultra Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. But with the addition of Ultra Turlers, all of a sudden, Triku became a top 3 unit from barely being a top 8 unit, and that's an insane jump over just one release. And I think that shows that he had the value, but on release people just weren't using him right. But beyond that one objective of countering the 6th anniversary Ultra, his value was never really high. Not to say he wasn't usable, but it's objectively true that people were wrong about him on release, and then when Turles dropped, his value skyrocketed. People turned their necks and saw that he was very valuable. He also had a lot of stock being carried by Ultra Majin Vegeta and Turles, while still keeping Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta out of the meta. But it's very apparent that once the festival 2024 started, he was nowhere to be seen. Again, not to say nobody was using him, but his decline was rapid because his job had been done, and that was it for him. That's going to be the end of the video. There were some other units that I did leave out, but I'm potentially saving them for part 3. But again, let me know in the comment section if there's any unit that you felt I should have mentioned. I am trying to mention every unit in history in a sense, and I'm focusing on the mainly premium premium units, so Legends Limited and Ultras, but there are some 1% Sparkings I would like to mention, but also just for the video, you know, I don't have clips for those 1% Sparkings because they don't drop trailers for them like that. The video wouldn't be as good that way anyways, but let me know. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you haven't already, make sure to press that subscribe button. We're on this grind to 200,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching the video, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.